Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Noble Manhattan's Child and Adolescent Coaching Support Group for April. I had to try and remember that. I couldn't remember whether it was March or May at the moment. Anyway, Wednesday the 10th of April, here we all are. And last year we looked into artificial intelligence in education because it was all the rage and everybody was getting very, very worried about it. We're now about a year on from there, and I've asked Bob back to update us. Now, a little bit about Bob Snarey. He's he and I go back quite a few years now, and one of the things that is really floating his boat at the moment is artificial intelligence, and he's all up on ChatGPT and things like that. And what with both of our determination to help children and adolescents, I've invited him back to look further into artificial intelligence in education, and just to ensure that what Bob's going to say this evening is his view of AI. Now, I'm hoping that we've got some experts in the room who are using AI in education, and they'll be able to tell us how it's going for them. If there's some teachers, what their opinions are and things like that, because it's other opinions that are really important, and not only opinions of each individual, but where this is an international gathering, and it would be great to hear how other countries are coping, dealing with artificial intelligence, particularly when it comes to education. So without further ado, I shall hand you over to Bob.
Hello, good evening. Good evening. Okay, so a little bit more about me. Yes, I've been working with ChatGPT now for a couple of years, and I've got developer status with it, which means that I can create my own environments within ChatGPT, so I can experiment. And I've been looking at that with about education, a particular interest in it, and helping young people. I've got a son who's at university, and I've been talking to him about AI and how it affects him. And it's really quite interesting because his lecture is allowing him to use AI. Allowing to use ChatGPT, and between the two of us, we've created his own little environment that he can use. He's telling the university he's on a master's course. He can't get his head around academic writing. He's a musician. He's doing a music master's. He finds it a struggle. He can't write academically, and the university has agreed that he can write his papers, and he can put it through this little system that we've created, and it will rewrite it in an academic way. We've shown both outcomes to the tutor, and he's accepted it. I think that's interesting progress. My son Lewis says, I'll never use academic writing again. Why should I learn it? I'm not interested in it. All I want to do is be able to impart the information in a way that can be marked, and that's the way the university is seeing it. And I think that's an interesting take on it. But really, here I want to talk a little bit about how things are going. And the best way to predict the future really is to invent it. It's following along quite nicely. It isn't just a sci-fi dream anymore. AI makes learning personalized. It can be like having your own tutor. You can get it to teach things for you. I do it too. I create little sections that what we call GPTs. They're just about my own personal learning, and I set the parameters for it, and I get it to ask me to teach me things, and also to ask me questions. So you can create your own environments, but this is what schools are beginning to do now. But the clever thing about AI is it can spot which students might need a little bit of extra help, before it becomes a bigger issue. It means everyone gets a fair shot at learning. So I think it will change how we teach. Um, the teachers to make most of AI is about leveling up they've got to learn their tech skills without losing the personal touch. It's not about robots taking over, it's about using this emerging tech as a tool to make learning even better. I can understand that people find it scary, parents, teachers, a robot can replace us. What about privacy? But the key really is to keep the conversation going. So just to set the scenario, really, I'd like to tell you a story, which hopefully you can relate to. So we have Alex. He's a secondary school pupil. He finds it hard to stay engaged, and he sees the relevance of curriculum to personal interests and future ambitions. He can't see how what he's being taught relates to anything about what he's interested in. And then we have the teacher, Mr. Thompson. Okay, he's committed, overstretched, striving to meet the needs of his pupils, within a conventional educational network. And I'm sure some of you can relate to that. So it's in a state secondary school in a suburban area, grappling with the usual issues, limited resources, diverse pupil needs, and the pressures of standardized testing. So the challenges are Alex's lack of engagement. He finds traditional lecture-based teaching methods uninspiring, and he struggles to connect the curriculum with the real world. Mr. Thompson's struggle is he's passionate about the role, but faces all the growing challenges in addressing the individual needs of his pupil due to large class sizes and administrative burdens. He also finds it difficult to integrate technology into his teaching effectively, owing to insufficient resources and training. I wonder, and if you can tell me later whether that's actually your experience. Okay, so midway through the academic year, the school initiates a trial on an AI enhanced learning program designed to tackle some of these issues. Okay, the program includes personalized learning pathways. So with this, these AI algorithms analyze pupils' learning styles, their performance and interests to create customized learning plans. So that offers Alex a more stimulating and relevant educational experience. The system will know what Alex is interested in because it will ask him, and it will make the learning personalized and aim it straight ahead. So AI tutors and assistants are available around the clock. AI tutors provide immediate feedback and support for pupils, assisting Alex with queries outside of school hours and offering Mr. Thompson a valuable resource to extend learning beyond the classroom. Data-driven insights for teachers with AI systems offering Mr. Thompson detailed analytics on pupil performance and engagement, allowing him to adapt his instructions more effectively and identify pupils who may require additional attention or support. So back onto Alex, with the advent of AI, Alex begins to notice a shift in the learning environment. The personalized learning pathways enable exploration of subjects that align with personal interests, such as, in his case, technology and environmental science, making learning more captivating and relevant. The access to AI tutor aids in addressing challenges in difficult subjects like maths, boosting confidence and performance. So Mr. Thompson's adaptation, he uses the AI insights to refine his teaching strategies, placing greater emphasis on interactive and project-based learning. He also employs AI tutors to provide differentiated instructions, ensuring that each pupil receives support tailored to their specific needs. This not only lightens his workload, but also makes teaching more fulfilling as he observes noticeable improvements in pupil engagement and outcomes. So in conclusion, as the academic year advances, the integration of AI into the educational experience revolutionizes the classroom dynamic. Alex becomes more engaged in learning, recognizing the clear links between education and his future goals. Mr. Thompson, with the aid of AI tools, can concentrate on what he loves most, inspiring pupils and nurturing a passion for learning. The story ends on an optimistic note, with the school community acknowledging the potential of AI to augment traditional education, making it more personalized, engaging, and effective. So I think that narrative story underscores really the potential of AI to overcome long-standing challenges in education by personalizing learning experiences. Is there anybody there who can relate to this?
I'm sorry, I'm in agreement of what you're saying, and within the actual college situation and education system, that's brilliant. But then it takes away the human emotion, and it takes away the individual learning for themselves and being able to engage and to ask specifically things for themselves. So it seems a bit systematic rather
Yeah, it
than
is.
emotional. Yeah, that's just my
Yeah.
point of view.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
sorry.
Sarah, it's a valid point. It makes it look like learning is a lonely experience, and I think what you're saying is that it takes it out of the classroom. But in this scenario, I don't think it does, because from the research I've done, I think teachers become more like mentors, and they help the learning process by being mentors. So instead of sharing the knowledge that they have, they mentor children to find out the information for themselves.
Oh,
It's
that's brilliant. Yeah, that's
so
brilliant.
it's interesting point you make, and I hadn't thought about it from that point of view. So thank you.
Yeah, so my perspective is that AI has come to stay. There really isn't anything anyone can do about that. I know that a lot of lecturers are fighting back and are feeling frustrated, but I think perhaps the positive thing to do is to think about new ways of teaching and new ways of testing knowledge in students. I think that's the positive and pragmatic thing to do.
Well, what's your thoughts on personalized learning being at the forefront of this, making it better for the student instead of one type of teaching fits all? AI finds the way that gets through to the child. What's your feeling about that?
Yeah, I think that will be brilliant. I'm not sure exactly how it will work in real life, because I'm imagining perhaps a teacher or a lecturer with, say, 20 to 30 kids. So I'm not sure how that will work practically, how the teacher will be able to cater to each of these kids. But I think that personalized learning clearly is a great thing if it can be achieved.
Okay, in this scenario, the teacher doesn't have to work it out at all. So the information about the child, the child will share information themselves with the system. So a child could be interested at what they're interested, what are their goals, what do they think they want to be in the future, and then the AI will work out the way that they should be taught based on the answers that the AI gives them. AI will ask them a series of questions, they will answer them, and they will take those, and then they will devise a way that the child is taught, making it more relevant to them. So the teacher doesn't have to find, if he's got 30 pupils, he doesn't have to find 30 different ways of teaching, and he's not delivering one, but each child has something that aligns with them. But the teacher's on top of it because he's getting feedback. He's seeing how the pupils are engaging with the system. It doesn't negate the teacher. The teacher's still there. The teacher is still there talking about the subject, but he becomes more of a mentor
Yeah.
than he does an actual teacher.
I'd like to add that I've worked with people with learning complex needs for 38 years, and
Yeah.
I've actually been taught from the word go to work in a person-centered way, engaging with multidisciplinary teams without AI.
Yeah,
But
sure.
so I am aware of what you're saying, and it is a benefit, and it is in person-centered. And it's nice to see it from that perspective for the child. It's just the emotional side that I was worried about. That was all. Yeah, thank you.
I
Thank you
think
very much.
I think you're right to be worried about it as well. Yeah, especially children with complex needs. I can imagine that, but they will still be in a class. They still be in a classroom. The classroom setting doesn't. Not in the next 5 years, I don't think. It doesn't change. It's just their interaction with the way the knowledge is imparted changes, and it frees the teacher up because all the marking is done for the teacher, theoretically.
And I agree with that, because the teachers work extremely hard and take it out to the classroom, to home, and don't have a life of their own sometimes. So I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think it sounds really interesting, and I think that what will happen is the learning and the mentoring in this case becomes more high value than what goes on at the moment. So I think it's a great idea, actually. It's, you know.
Yeah, I think also it's affordable as well. It's not expensive to do this. It can be quite beneficial. It's going to be interesting to see how different countries go about this. Well, we can talk that about that a bit later. But Ian, I think you've got some questions you wanted to ask me. Ian, you're on mute.
I was on mute. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. So just testing. Yeah, sure. I get that it's going to be a transition. I get that it's going to take time and things like that. I think Leda is quite right. Well, we know AI is with us. It's here to stay. The genie is out of the bottle. We're not going to be able to stuff it back in. So we're going to have to live with it. But the challenge, I suppose, is how we're going to get it right. Because there's an awful lot going on. And across the world, is this an international problem? I mean, what's been done about it internationally, Bob?
Well, internationally, I've actually I share this with people because I did some research on this as to what is happening. Who are the people that are getting together? So there is a number. I can share this later. It's not readily available. What's happening is that OECD and a couple of other organisations have arranged conferences around the world to see what exactly is the exactly was what happened globally, and is there a should we say are we going to collaborate as a consensus on how we approach this? And there isn't one yet, but people are keen to do it. So different countries, for instance, in the United States, there's no federal stand on this at all. They're leaving it to the individual states. Some states are putting in some restrictions. The EU is all over it with GDPR. They're very keen to control data protection. There was an incident in Sweden recently where a school put in face recognition cameras. As a child comes in, the child was marked as being being present, So there's no need for calling of registers. Everybody, he knew when a teacher arrived, when a student arrived, because there was facial recognition. But the government stepped in and said, we can't do that. It's against GDPR. So, but that was, that was Sweden's interpretation of it. But certainly EU is very strong on it. Probably from my research, I think China are most likely to run with this more than anybody else. They seem to be quite keen to get on with this, but also they're quite prepared to share as well. So it could be interesting to watch what they do. We'll have to see. Let's see what happens there. But yeah, there's meetings, and most countries are keen to hear what other countries are doing. Like, at least there may be some consensus, but we're going to run it at different levels. EU will run at one. America, each state at the moment will run at its own slow pace. I think they will be slow to, even though they've got the technology. I think America will be slow to uptake this. We'll see.
May I just ask which country will financially benefit from most of it throughout, and benefit financially from it by putting AI together?
Well, it's interesting you say, because I don't know. I don't know about who benefit most. I mean, in terms of just within education, I could see universities benefiting from it, but it's interesting because you say benefit. Are we looking at, if we're just looking at financial benefits, we're going to see a lot of people laid off with AI. A lot of people. So that's a worry for a start. Lots of new jobs will be created, but lots of jobs will become completely obsolete as we embrace it. So this ties back into education, in that we need to be educating people in a way that they'll get the new jobs that are coming out, and not point them towards jobs like accounting, which will disappear. No need for accountants anymore.
I believe that when it happens, Bob.
Yeah. I mean, it'll move into the judiciary as well. It's interesting. So, you look at it from and I'm not this with education. I purely looked at this as how it benefits, how we can look at it in a positive light and see how it benefits schools, teachers, children and parents. I haven't really looked at it from the financial side, but I could certainly see admin being reduced. But if admin is reduced, then administrators are let go. So it's a two-edged sword, really. But I think it's inevitable. When I think there's a point earlier, I think from Sarah, who mentioned that talking about teachers and the amount of workload they have. There's a lot of things teachers do that are not teaching, and AI takes it away. You don't have to do it anymore. It just doesn't get this. You don't do it. It's all done for you. So that's got to be a benefit, surely.
Okay, Bob. So, what subjects do you think are going to be hardest hit?
Well, sorry, say again. Subjects.
What subjects in schools do you think are going to be hardest hit by bringing in AI?
Yeah. Okay. So it's difficult. I think maths and we're in the UK, so English, whatever your major language is, I think they stay. I think the way they taught changes massively. There are obviously some subjects that can't be taught by AI, like physical education. You have a hard job teaching that. But I don't know. I don't know which ones will go, but certainly the way they're taught. So something like history, for instance, where perhaps everybody on this discussion, I would have thought, has learnt dates in history by rote. There's no need for that anymore because it's all at a touch of a button. They don't need to know when this battle was or when that queen or king was on the throne. They don't need to know it anymore. But what they will have instead is, if it's in history, they will have augmented reality. They will be able to. They'll be able to immerse themselves in history by using AI. They'll be able to walk through the streets of Pompeii. They'll be able to walk into a shop, in any time zone. Right? They can be on the battle line with Napoleon's troops. All of this will be in the future. All of this, you will get a hands-on history. Same with geography. If you're studying the Great Lakes, for instance, you go to the Great Lakes. You put your headset on. There's the Great Lakes. You can tour them all. You can fly over them. You can stand at the edge of them. You can look at them. So that's where it's going. That's more immersive education and exciting. That's at our fingertips now. All of that. It's going to take some doing, and all the content, and obviously, like any kind of educational material, all needs to be checked, and the counterbalances have got to be there. No one can be able to get at this. They have to be walled gardens, so no one can go in there and change it. So it's interesting. So to answer your question, I don't know which ones will go, but I think the way we teach everything will change. I think it's inevitable. And I think by embracing it, we can make it the future that we want. So will teachers become obsolete? No, they won't. They'll be more important than ever. So the AI will just handle all the grunt work, and teachers can focus on inspiring and guiding students. So I don't think that's I think teachers, the teacher's role remains relevant, important, essential even, but it may become more of mentors, because the teaching is dealt out to them, to the students. So
Is that going to detract from the immersive experience of what school is all about? I know we've talked about going into the subjects, but if you're going into the subjects individually, where's the sort of the team spirit, as it were?
I think okay. So I think if you've got let's say a class size of 30, there won't be 30 different teaching modules. There's not 30 different styles. There might be 3, there might be 4. Yeah, there may be. So you could break the class up into different groups. I'm not expecting their class of 30 to be 30 different. I mean, some might be sort of slightly tailored on it, but I still think the teacher will be able to see, okay, right, we've got these. Teaching, as I understand, you go as fast as the slowest person in the classroom. That doesn't have to happen now.
Okay, so your class of the future basically will allow those who are I'm going to say special educational needs, but I'm going to enlarge that, because special educational needs always tends to identify those who are struggling to
Mm.
make the grade, whereas actually there are people well above the grade who are struggling because they're taking it in so fast
And they're bored.
and they're bored.
Mm.
And if they're bored, they can be naughty.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
what you're suggesting is that all of these different sort of speeds of learning can all be catered for through AI.
Yes. And in the classroom. I think it would be very. I don't think it's a good idea that children should be sat there with, you know, headsets on, and with the futuristic goggles on, and being taught in a classroom. I don't think that will happen. But the teacher will still be able to engage them on the subject and set them tasks. The task will be set individually. They'll all be aiming at the same outcome, but the questions will be asked in a different way, and the answers will be given in a way that suits the pupil. And they will be marked, and the teacher can see in real time what's happening, because they're being tested. They're being tested all the time. So traditional tests, you don't need a traditional test now, because they're being tested continually. There's laptops in schools, and they're typing out what they're doing, or they're engaged with their iPads. Now, in the future, this is all connected to AI. So once they write something, it's logged. It's known about. So they're being assessed about their knowledge at all times. They might be prompted with a little question during the lesson. They could, even if a teacher can ask something, and on the screen of the pupil, it can be asked in another way that it knows that the child would understand. Whereas if it's a child who's constantly finding it difficult with the way the teacher is asking the questions could come up a different way in front of them on their screen. As an example.
Can I just make a comment? I'm not a
Sure.
teacher at the moment, but I've been in schools, and I'm science-based.
Mhm.
I'm just trying to visualize this, and in terms of being on the computer, all the students are at this point voluntarily typing something into a computer. So imagine the students that do type, okay, and then they get a prompt. There'll be some students that won't type, so you still have that disconnect between technology and the student, which is where we are. So you wouldn't necessarily have a child.
Okay, they don't have to type; they just speak.
Yeah, so there's got to be some interaction, but the scary thing is that I think somebody's been impregnated with a probe into the brain, and but that's when it gets more scary for us, in the sense, because you're still in charge of what you do. The computer is providing you with something. The time that these probes go into the brain, so that they actually will be programmed to understand what the brain is doing, and then there's an action. That's where the next level becomes. I don't know if you spend much time reading where the progress is for that particular person that had something positioned in their brain, but that's where you don't have control anymore about what you're doing.
We don't want that mind control. No, this is not about mind control. This is about systems that can benefit. That's really all it is. No, it's there. Let's use it. Let's make it better. You're a science teacher. Then we have labs, virtual labs. You can just step into a virtual lab.
Yeah.
Do what you want in a virtual lab. You could create. You tell the system as a teacher this is the lab that I want the students to have access to. The lab is created, and they can go into that lab virtually, and they can carry out the
Yeah,
experiments.
personally, I've never had the opportunity to experience that. I'm hoping in Edinburgh, where there's a science festival going on, to have some type of interaction with that. But yeah, my thoughts are the next step forward, which I think Elon Musk and guys are wanting to do, is to see how, yeah, it's almost like you're controlled by what information is in the domain, the deep learning domain, and how that would then create for some students their pathway of learning. But then that's predetermined. You have no control of how to determine that. It's quite, and that's
The scenario I'm painting here is that you have you as the teacher, you create the
yes,
environment that you want.
very
It
controlled.
doesn't exist out of your class. Now you may have used it for a previous class, and then you can bring it in and say, well, I'm going to change it because this class is slightly different, and then it knows what pupils you're putting into this class and what they're capable of. It can set them tasks
Yeah,
within
I
that, but
think,
it'd be your environment. You're not using Elon Musk, you're using yours.
yeah. So I wrote a PhD, and it would have been quite helpful to have some form of academic writing, like you say, your son is being helped with whatever he's creating, which is quite a creative text. It turns it into the university required academic that for some students, I think is in the current system, where the current system requires an academic text. I think that's brilliant, because these students are missing out on having their fantastic ideas read and published because of their limitations. So this is an amazing thing. And virtual laboratories where you'll be setting up for students to walk in. Maybe it will be goggle.
Yeah, probably would be, yeah.
I've never seen that happen. I don't know. There's probably quite a lot of investment and money that would have to go into a classroom of such. I mean, take, for example, I don't know, a dissection of a heart, and then, you know, the teacher, right, come in everybody, we're going to dissect a heart. I mean, you're using your hands for these sorts of things. So everything is hand driven. I'm not quite sure how the AI is going to be.
Well, surgeons are performing surgery remotely now.
Yes, so that's obviously operated via how they can, you know, move the mouse into a specific area, and then if they press a button, that's going to suture something, or that's going to cut something. Yeah, but actually the learning aspect of you no longer need to maybe dissect. I mean, it's all this interface between what the technology will do now versus what we have practically done. I mean, when you're setting up an experiment, usually you pour acid from a test tube into maybe another test tube. Is that going to be necessary to do? But those are still skills that are very important for working in a laboratory. But the day we have robots, we maybe not need that. And
no, you probably won't be touching acid now in the future, no.
But be taking away a lot of skills of working with the hand.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. But we're in charge. We're in charge of it. We're in charge of the future. Well, the generation behind us is in charge of the future. It doesn't have to be like that. It's not everything. It's not all dystopian. What I'm trying to say is that we can make this work for us, and we can take what we like, and certainly the personal interaction. You know, we must keep that. I mean, if you look at automated supermarkets now, how we've allowed that to happen in our little local supermarket, where it's all self-service checkout. We've sleptwalked into that. There's lots of old people now who go out, and they used to look forward to chatting to people in the shops. There's nowhere to chat to anymore. No matter what shop they go in, they're using self-checkout. There's no one to chat.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that, because I watched the guy who was supervising the self-checkouts today, And I thought, what kind of job are you doing? He's just watching people, you know, and if there's a problem with the machine, he'll go over. So if the machines work, his job is just literally sitting there. And I thought he needs to be engaging with clients coming in, because otherwise his job is just now sitting, looking.
Yeah.
Which is very boring.
Very, very boring for you, but some people like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe.
I mean, it's a fascinating picture that you described, Bob, and your ideas, Vanessa, are coming out fantastically. I'm just trying to work out how they're going to in this, in this futuristic lab, how they're going to sort of let everybody smell the formaldehyde or the hydrogen sulfide when the mistakes happen or whatever. That's another aspect of what perhaps could be achievable. But one thing's burning with me at the moment, and that is that, way back in the 1990s, I know that's history for some people, but way back in the 1990s, I just happened to say to somebody that, it's not what you know, it's knowing where to find it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a long time ago. But we could see even then that the amount of information that was available, you were beginning to be able to find it without having to sort of take down the next tome of Encyclopedia Britannica or what have you. But the trouble is there's now so much out there, and not all of it is right.
Mm-hmm.
So how does AI dispassionately know what is right and what is not?
Well, if you go back to school books, you've got a school book and the child's given a school book. Right? The school book's been written, it's been approved, and it goes into the school. Be the same with the AI. It's a walled garden. The information is sealed and solid. Can't be got at. That's what they get.
But then, having just said what I have, I learnt the other day that, having been taught history of the battles of Agincourt and things like that, where we routed the French. Forgive me if there's any French people here, but that was in the 1400s. But what we were never taught was the subsequent battle that we lost, that we, the Brits, lost, and actually meant that we were no longer in France. We used to own lots of France.
That's indoctrination.
And that is indoctrination, and that is the way history was or was not taught. Now,
it's written by the victors.
60 years down the line, I find that there's gaps in my knowledge, which really, perhaps, it was more important than what we were taught. And so, therefore, in a way, I'm actually answering my own question. There's been fake news out there for an awful long time.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
And one of the phrases that came across my screen today was critical thinking. Now, how can AI work on that level? And bringing in what Sarah was saying about the emotional aspect, because we are all unique, particularly when it comes to emotions. How is AI going to achieve that?
Okay, there has to be an increasing emphasis on critical thinking in AI and in problem solving and creativity. Facts and foundational knowledge remain important. What will happen is that the teacher will have an emphasis on the critical thinking and the problem solving. I think I think that's it really. I mean, the memorization of facts and figures will become less emphasized because the students can just rely on AI to retrieve it.
May I just ask about what are the children going to be working towards if you're working towards a world of AI? So what jobs will be out there for the children once they have been qualified by the help of the AI and the teacher? And what will be their inspiration and their job market?
That really is a decision for government. But boring admin, will be gone. So there's no reason for anybody to do any kind of admin. Obviously, that needs supervising. Big data becomes even bigger. So data sets and information in life in real time. So any kind of number crunching or admin can pretty much be dispensed with. But we still need things moving. We still need things lifting and making and shaking.
But I think if you project forward to look at what can be done by a robot,
Yeah,
that,
manufacturing.
yeah, the robot functions when they're connected with what a human wants the robot to do through technology. So all humans, it's almost like you have to learn how to operate a computer. A load of jobs which are about the technology interface with either obtaining information or making sure something does a job, whether that be what about hospitality? Take hotels, but it's the human element. Do you want to have the human element in there or not? If business takes care of that, so that the world can continue to have.
If you take hospitality, you've already got self-check-in hotels, haven't you?
You do,
but if you and you it's almost the staff is an absolute minimum in order to reduce the costs. But if you're going away business for the night, one person, it doesn't matter, you stay on that. But if you're going with your partner for a romantic weekend, you don't want you want the personal touch, don't you?
Yeah.
So you'll choose a different type of hotel. So I think that's still that still remains relevant. But I think there'll be anything with human interaction is just going to be more expensive.
Well, that sounds
Right.
good. I'm a coach. That's all about human interaction.
Yeah.
But interestingly, one of the reports I did read was that one of the jobs that is probably more secure than others is a life coach. So if anybody wants to sign up, you know where to come. But it is about that, isn't it? You know, what they say is that half the jobs that that the next generation will be going into don't even exist at the moment.
No, that's true enough.
And so therefore we've got to be able to generate within them the flexibility of being able to adapt, because I know that as one gets older, time marches faster. I know from experience, but actually it is marching faster, particularly with technology and particularly with the speed with which the next generation is going to have to adapt. And perhaps there's a line here that schools should be helping kids to be far more adaptable, far more intuitive, and be much better at sort of making decisions, so that when the situation comes up, they can make the decision. They've done their critical thinking. They've got the opportunity now of making a decision to achieve whatever they have to do next. And it could be that it's not a job for life. They will be flitting from one job to another, and they will have to be very volatile, perhaps, in their thinking. Now, how's that going to come into schools? Because I'm not convinced AI can do that.
Yeah,
I'm just
well,
different people on the call here from different countries, and And it's going to be very dependent on how much money a country has to invest in this kind of infrastructure. If any student is sitting here in the UK, to put them on the problem of solving our roads and potholes would be fantastic if this could be sorted out by robots and AI. But are we ever going to get to the point where we have enough money to do that? Whereas maybe some countries in Saudi Arabia, Middle East, already have the money and infrastructure to think like that. So jobs around the world for children, yeah, it depends on where they're going to be working. And that's going to be challenging for international schools, because international schools have a curricula for students which is global. And yet, depending on how fast countries can adapt to incorporating robotics and AI into their system of functioning will be limiting for whether you can use what you've learned or not. You might, yeah, is anyone else on the call from countries where they actually see robots working? I don't see many apparent robots here because I'm not in a factory in the UK, but maybe Amazon warehouse is using some, or maybe in the healthcare. But yeah, it's not very visible in public life here in the UK yet, is my point of view. It might be very visible in public life in other countries.
I don't know, it's just a slight aside here, but have you seen the Amazon shop that you can go in? Have you seen the Amazon shops?
I've heard about it. You walk in, you take stuff, and you leave, and you
they're trialing them. You walk in, you show your phone, you just tap your phone, you walk in, pick up what you want, you walk out, and it's built. And so they built that under the pretext that it was AI. Okay. And there's 1,000 people in India watching you shop. Okay. They didn't build any AI at all. What they put was cameras there, and they used human beings. What they were doing was testing to see if people would wear this kind of technology. They would build the technology if everybody thought, yeah, they would accept it. These shops are closing now. So they didn't have to spend millions of pounds to build the technology. They just fooled you into thinking they were. What they did was employ 1,000 people in India to watch cameras to stop you nicking.
Oh, wow.
That was it.
But which country was that? Which country?
They told them in there was one in New York. There was a couple of cities in the US, and they did in London. I went in one in London. There was one in Croydon as well. Yeah, there's a few around, not very many.
In fact, none of those are using technology. They're all using the folk.
Well, they were using quite advanced technology, but it wasn't as hands-free as they kind of implied it was, because they employed 1,000 people in India to look at the cameras. So there was only ever going to be an experiment for them, and that they would then build the technology if people went, okay, well, this is cool. This is how I want to shop. But apparently it's not how people want to shop. They're closing them down, I believe.
At least that's not how they want to shop yet.
Yeah. Just to tidy up a question you asked me, and I wasn't able to fully answer it, which was on what are there any global discussions? I did think I might be asked this, so I had a look. So the global discussions are UNESCO, as I remembered, United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, plays a leading role in fostering global discussions on the ethical use of AI in education. OECD, Economic Cooperation Development, they're pivotal in this, and they are looking into it. And then there are many international collaborations and conferences. So countries are keen to see what other countries are doing. So but it looks like China will just forge its own path. EU will as well. They've got the EU can be massive in this, but they're really concerned about data protection. So that's what's going to slow them down. And in America, There's no federal decision on it. States do what they want. But 2 or 3 states are looking at it, so they're going to be behind the curve. So it'd be China and the EU. I think.
Can I just ask how they're going to look at the mental health of the child?
Goodness.
And what actions they're going to be putting in place for young people who are
Goodness.
struggling?
I don't know. Perhaps you better handle this one, Ian. Beyond my remit.
Well, this is a very, very good question, actually. Thank you, Sarah. It's one of those areas where I think that AI is going to be challenging. Now, if AI is going to be involved in any way, perhaps it will be a case of using it to research various techniques and try and identify the best technique to work with a particular child. There may still well be the requirement for the one-on-one. I mean, Bob talked about the idea of the teacher becoming a mentor. Now, perhaps that is the aspect that the teacher takes more of the sort of social emotional stance rather than the actual teaching of the subject. Perhaps there is more that get involved in that way. So those who are neurodiverse and the like, perhaps with AI will have a much better opportunity to look further afield to find the answer. But I think there's still going to be a huge amount of human intervention with the ability of sensing the requirements, of understanding the emotional side of things, which as it stands, AI is not programmed to do. It can number crunch, it can do a lot of the day-to-day work that Bob's talked about, but it still can't fathom the human brain. And that, I think, is perhaps the division here of where the AI will work. And it can still be used as a tool, but it is not the solution. In exactly the same way as the GPS is a navigation tool, it is not navigation, it is not the solution.
Okay. Well, I would say AI is a solution to freeing up teachers to teach, and it can do that today.
Provided it's used as a tool.
Yes.
I think that's the important thing. And the more we talk about it now, the more aware of AI we are, the more we can therefore take charge of it and use it for the purpose rather than it using us for its purpose, which could feasibly happen.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look, I've imagined here that just sum up really. I've imagined the next 5 years and what it might look like. Okay, personalized learning at the forefront. Okay, we covered this earlier. Okay, so customizing education, tailoring content for the individual student. Okay, revolutionized AR and VR experiences. Okay, we talked about virtual lab, and Ian talked about Agincourt, where you can go back and fire a longbow at Agincourt. You can see the topography of Agincourt. You can walk on it. You can make it live. So I expect AR and VR to be big. AR, if you go to London and visit and see the London, what's left of the London Wall, just by using your phone, you can point it out the wall, the London Wall, and it rebuilds it as it was in Roman times. You could just go along the wall and it just builds it back up to how it was and what it looked like. And it'll place a couple of Roman sentries at one of the gates. And so it's already there. So I expect that to come in to make it more real. So as I've already mentioned, streamlining administrative tasks, that should be its first job, really. Should be its first job. I mean, I use AI to clear my inbox. I only see what's actionable. That's usually from Ian. I don't see it. I don't see anything else. It's just not. It's not relevant to me if I don't have to action it. I don't read it. So dynamic adaptive assessments. Okay. So an AI-driven assessment system that do more than test knowledge. They learn how students learn, and they give instant feedback. So no more tests. So a new era of ethical AI and digital literacy. Right? So it's understanding its ethical use and the digital realm will become fundamental. So it means educating from a young age about the workings, societal impacts, and responsible applications of AI. You'd mentioned that earlier. Ian, I think we have to teach them early about what it is they're doing. And then you've got a world connected by learning. So we should be even more connected with the world. So less borders in education, global collaboration between schools and countries, instant language translation. So you can talk with a student in another land that doesn't speak your language. You can immediately converse with each other. That's here now. We've got that now. Okay, just finally, the imperative of lifelong learning. Okay, an area of rapid technology evolution, the focus on lifelong learning will intensify, supported by AI platforms that adapt to individual career and personal growth paths. So it stays with you after you leave school. Okay, so all your learning stays with you. You can access it all the time. It knows about what you said when you were a child and your career paths and what you wanted, and it will adapt with you. And it will continue to teach you throughout your life, taking you on the goal that you want to go on. So continual learning through AI. It will probably become like a buddy or a friend. It'll probably have a face. You'll probably be able to choose its own face. You'll be able to choose what accent it has. It will be there with you at all times. So, there's an AI phone at the moment. I'm going to buy it. So I think it's out in a couple of weeks. It's just one button and a scroll wheel on it, and it costs about 150 quid. You connect it to all your accounts. You just talk to it. Does everything for you. So if you want to book something, you want to book a hotel, it will learn enough about you to know that you never want to be on the ground floor. It knows that you have to have a bath. You don't want to shower. It knows you like a certain type of hotel. It knows you like to be in the city centre, not on the outskirts. We'll just find it and book it for you. So that technology is here now. And I think, in the coming years, AI in the education is set to be transformed. But it's ours to transform, isn't it? AI doesn't only exist because we allow it to exist. We use it. Let's use it as a tool. Let's not be frightened of it. It doesn't have to be a dystopian outcome. It can be a positive one, I think, I hope. But privacy and fairness is what I say. We still got to have our privacy. Yeah. If you're on a learning program, if you're giving all this information, it needs to stay between you in this little bubble. And what I do with my little bits is I create little walled gardens. No one can get at it. No one can see it. No one's got access to it. Just me. I can add somebody to it, as I have with my son. He's then got access to it, but only because I said he could have access. He can't add access to anybody else, and that information stays within the system.
And may I ask, what system are you talking about here?
Oh, I'm at the moment, I'm talking just about ChatGPT.
Okay, so ChatGPT allows you to create your own like account, and you can allow your son to see your account.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. If you're in developer mode, yeah, you just create your own. But so it will be available to everybody. But yeah, you can just create your own. There's no. It brings in. It uses the technology from outside, but it keeps everything within. It's not. They don't. No one can get at it. No one can see it.
So if I took my smartphone, which I've got ChatGPT on it, and I subscribe per month, I can start building these like walls.
Yeah, you can use what you'll be able to use at the moment is if you do pay for it, there's something called a GPT, and you create your own GPT. Okay? So you can decide that GPT. I created one recently for UK charities. Just gave it the parameters that I wanted it to work within, and then I can grant access to for charities to be able to use it. You can use it as like a little personal assistant. I've got about a dozen of them now. It just help me with various little tasks. They're very good. You can teach it your own way of speaking. I've got
Could it
various.
find jobs for one? I mean,
Can it find jobs? Yeah, there's you'll find other people's GPTs that they've made public, so you can find. So you can do academic research. You can look for jobs. You can find people on LinkedIn. It'll just go off like research assistants. It'll just go off and find all the information you want. So Ian and I use it use it daily.
Okay, thank you so much for all this info. Need to get busier on technology.
Yeah, if you want to know more about ChatGPT, just send me an email.
Thank you very much.
Right,
You're most welcome.
I must bring this to a close because we're well overrun by now. So thank you very much indeed, everybody, for staying the course.
Yeah, thank you. I've enjoyed it.